Hello everyone. Today I will explain to you all the possible ways to use Render Target in Unreal Engine. I will go through the basic methods for beginners all the way to the advanced methods used by professionals. So let us start immediately. To begin, for people new to using the engine, what is a render target? Simply, a render target is a texture, but it can be modified at runtime. This idea is fundamental behind it, where the image or the drawing or even the written text on it can be updated at runtime. It is extremely useful when using it in things like mirrors to a large extent, and creating a mini-map from a top-down perspective or a portal, or creating puzzle games using it, especially since there are many features that support that. And yes, there is a lot to do with it, but these were the basic things. To create a render target, just search here for render target and choose this basic typa. Now, after we know what a render target is and its benefit, let us move immediately to the goal of the video, which is all the possible ways to use it. I can divide the ways of using it into 5 methods. I will tell you all of them, starting from the simple to the advanced. The first method, which is the basic one, is by using Scene Capture Target. You can use it from here, and it will appear to you in the form of a camera like this. What we need is to go down to this section, and here we need to add the render target that we created, just like this. Now let us open the render target. As you see, it is currently reflecting what the camera captures. Let me show you a better way to display the matter. Let us go here and create a new cube. Okay, after that, from the render target, I will click on Create New Material. I will place this material here. Now all our movements will be displayed here as if it were a big screen. As you see, it captures the movements and displays them in front of us, and this is the general way of making a mini-map. As for mirrors, they just place it sideways with the wall like this approximately. Yes, and it will look like a mirror as you see. As for the quality, if you see that it is bad, just from here, adjust size X and size Y here, but be careful. The bigger the image resolution is, the more it increases the device resource consumption. It is good to understand this well. This was the first method, and it is the easiest way to use render target. So now we move to the second method, which is by using draw material to render target. Quickly, I will create a new actor. And here you can call this node. Here we will find 2 inputs. The first is for the render texture that we want to draw on. I will use the same one that we made previously. As for the second, it is the material that we will draw with on the render target. For this, we will need to create a new material. To choose the effect that we want to draw, I already have this texture, so I will use it. Here I will use blend mode on translucent, and here I will set it to unlit. I will connect the 2 inputs here using the alpha channel. After that, we return here and place the material that we created. Let us make the effect appear after a delay of 2 seconds in order to see it better. And we place the actor in the world so that it executes the effect later. Yes, it appears, but what if we try to close the game and open it again, for example? You will find that the render target is still present. Well, we certainly will not want the effect or the drawing to remain visible, for that there is a node called Clear Render Target. We need to use it always before starting any new drawing in the render target because its benefit is that it erases any drawing that was done on the render target before drawing again. Let us try and see now. Good. what we want has been executed, but it is not good for the wall to remain just a black wall, is it? So let us give it its own texture while preserving the drawing effect on the render target. For that, let us go to the render target material. Here you will encounter this problem. To solve it, click on the texture and change the color option to linear color. I will add the wall texture and multiply it with the render target using multiply, but before connecting it, we use 1 minus on it. You will get this type of effects. And that is everything. Let us see the effect. As it appears in front of you, we now have a wall texture with the drawing effect. But in my opinion, the size of the drawing texture is bigger than necessary, is it not? So let us adjust it. We go back here. First, we need to change the sampler source here to shader. Clamp to avoid multiple texture issues later. And after that, what we will need to do quickly will be use texture coordinate, subtract it by a value that we make a parameter, let it be 0.5, and then divide it by a value of 0.1, and add the result using add with the previous parameter, 0.5, and connect everything with the texture sample. As you notice, the shape of the spot has become smaller, which suits our need. Now, as you see, its shape has definitely become better. But what if we wanted to control the position of this effect, where we want it to appear at the place we point to create an effect similar to the effect left by a bullet after it is fired, for example? Okay, for this we go back here. What we will modify is simple. First, we will add subtract here next to texture coordinate, and let us move a bit away here. I will use a constant 3 vector, and I will turn it into a parameter, and I will name it effect transform, and remember this name. Then mask, and we do subtract for the first parameter that we created, and connect it here. Next, let us go to the previous actor. We will first need a reference to the third-person character, so I will create it quickly. And then in event tick, we will create line trace by channel. We also need to enable trace complex for this to work. So from third-person character, I will use get actor location. And before connecting it, I will raise it by 100 in the z-axis. And then I will get the follow camera because I want the line trace to follow the camera rotation, and get forward vector and multiply it by 2000 and add it to the player location and add in a special height to it also by an amount of 500. I will place it here for 1 frame, and let us see what we have. Yes, we have a line trace that follows the camera rotation, and the player location is suitable for what we need. So next, what we need to use will be something different. We first need to go to Project Setting, and here we search for the option Support UV Hit Result and enable it. It will ask you to restart the project. Anyway, it is enabled for me. So we return here, and from Out Hit, we use Find Collision UV. We only need 2 things now. First, create dynamic material instant, and it will be the drawing material that we created. And then we use Set Vector Parameter, and the name here will be Effect Transform. And from Find Collision UV Up, we use Convert to Vector and connect it with it. And finally, we use Draw Material to render target. We can copy it from here, and yes, we delete it from the beginning as well. We also need to open the brush material and copy everything we did here in order to reuse it in this material and also reset the texture settings here. So let us try and see now. Yes, it works. As you see, the drawing is done on the specified area accurately. Okay, of course, there are shortcomings. You can solve this yourselves by adding simple collision logic. And you can even add clear render target before drawing, which will make it draw the effect in only one area each time. Anyway, you can modify it freely in a way that suits you after you understood the basic idea of how to do it. Okay, after this, let us go to the next third method, which is by using draw canvas to render target. The difference here is that this option comes with more details and more control, and this type is useful for use in puzzles and things that require calculations on the drawn image itself. And here, the matter is not limited to drawing a specific effect like before, but you can even draw a line or text or even a pixel in a specific place in the image and control its position, color, and even its shape. And even obtain pixel information at a specific place, what its shape and color are, and other matters. The possibilities here are literally limitless for use. The difference between it and draw material to render target is that the control there is through the material, while here the control is through blueprint logic. This is the fundamental difference between them, and of course, I will show you all the basic possible ways to use draw canvas to render target. First, let us start with the basics, and let us set the goal of creating the same previous effect used in the second method, but this time using draw canvas to render target. For this, let us create a new custom event and name it canvas draw. So to use this method, there are two basic nodes. The first is begin draw canvas to render target, and the second is end draw canvas to render target. And they are exactly as the name suggests. The first, we use it when starting the drawing and modifications on the render target. And the second, we execute it when we finish doing the modifications on the render target. So here we place the render target that we are working on. Then from Canvas, let me show you. If you type, draw many options will appear here, and we will talk about all of them. But to execute the same previous effect, we need to choose draw material for now and connect it with end draw canvas. As for the context input, we take it from here. As for draw material here, there is not much to modify. First, we place render material, which will be the material that we will draw with, and we will use the same previous one, but with a simple change. We will remove this part here only, and screen size here, we will make it a variable. Then we turn it into a variable of type float. As for its value, setting it to 20 is more than enough. As for screen position, this is different. First, we make it a variable in the custom event. After that, we need to multiply size by screen position. This will give us the place where we will draw on the render target. But because Unreal Engine by default draws in the top left area, we need to adjust the drawing center to become in the middle. For this, we need to subtract the result from here by half of the screen size. After this, we are done here. What we need now is to use the event canvas draw here in event tick and connect it with find collision UV. Let us see the result. As you see, the same previous result has been achieved successfully without problems. I myself am very satisfied with this. Okay, from this point onward, we will start the more advanced part, but do not worry, it will not be very difficult. So, let us go to method 4 now. It is similar to method 03, where we will also use draw canvas to render target. But the difference is that we will do this in the professional way. First, we will create a new blueprint class. Here, we will search for canvas, render target 2D, name it whatever you want. Okay, so while we are at this, let me explain to you its benefit. Canvas render target 2D is a blueprint designed specifically to deal with render target, where it is considered like a place to keep the drawing logic into render target, where you do not need to call it in the world for it to run. So this gives it a clear advantage indeed. And its uses are when we want to make a change in the render target that is not related to an actor, here its benefit appears, such as when dealing with drawing on it only or capturing coordinates of certain points for a mini-map, for example, or image puzzles as well. And as I said, I do not recommend using it when you have changes related to a specific actor in the world, not because it will fail, but because it is easier and better to use the previous methods for that. And finally, there is something important you must know. What we will use here is not a render target, but a canvas render target. You can find it as I did in front of you now. And what is the difference between them? Well, render target usage consumes GPU and depends entirely on the power of your graphics card, while Canvas, render target consumes from the CPU, so it depends on the power of your processor. But often its impact is not as large as render target, so it is considered excellent in terms of performance. So without much prolongation, to use it, the logic here, we need to connect it with the event receive update. First, we do clear render target as usual and place the canvas render target that we just created. And after that, begin draw canvas to render target. And from it, let us start with something simple like drawbox. You will find screen size. We will need to make it a variable as before and make its value 10. We also have thickness and render color. I think these values are clear. So let us go to screen position. Let us first go to the canvas render target that we created. Do you remember my words that Unreal Engine by default draws from the top left, right? So if you leave screen position at 0, it will draw at that point because it starts drawing from the top left. And to understand the matter, well, follow the arrows here. From left to right are the positive x-axis values increasing until they reach the texture limits, and from top to bottom are the positive y-axis values, where their value increases starting from 0 until the texture limits. To test the matter, we go to the previous actor and create a new custom event and name it Apply Change. We use here create canvas render target to D, and after that, update resources. Finally, we need to make the custom event call in editor from here. So we click on the actor present in the world, and an apply change option will appear for us here. Because every time we click it, the changes will be executed on the canvas render target. So after we return here, nothing appeared. Yes, we forgot to assign a value to screen size. So let us try again now in the same way. What you see appeared is something like a pixel here, and of course we can change its position as we want and wherever we want, as I am doing now. We can also make several copies of it using for loop, and as just an example, I will use this method where I multiply the index values by screen size. With this, we now have something like a line resulting from several pixels. It does not necessarily have to be in the form of a line, it can also be random points. So let us now delete everything from here, and next we have draw border. A long list like this will appear to you. Okay, there is no need to worry about this. Currently, I will fill them randomly with a set of textures that I have. I will set screen size to 100 and screen position in the middle. I will also change rotation to 180. We press compile and apply the effects. And this is what will appear to us. Okay, let me explain it to you. This texture that appears in the background is the texture that we used here, and what appears on the right and left is what I placed here and here. And the same thing for the top and bottom. So let us move to the next, which is draw a line. The idea here is simply that you define 2 points and a line is drawn between them, of course, with defining the thickness and the color. I will define 2 random points now for testing. So let us apply the changes and see. Yes, as you see, a line has been created extending from the top left to the middle. And yes, as usual, I can manipulate and change its position as I wish. After this, we will find options like draw material, which we already explained a little while ago. So let us go try draw polygon. Its benefit is its ability to draw a shape composed of several points. The more points increase, the more sides it has, and the closer it gets to a circular shape. First, we place a texture if we want the shape to have one, and I place it to appear in the middle. And I will change the color here as well. So let us try. We will see nothing appear, and this is normal. We need to change the radius values here to larger values. We can change the texture and the color as well to suit us. We can try increasing the values here, and they will give us a shape with the number of points that we placed. And just as a note, if you place a number less than 3 here, nothing will appear, because logically there is no shape composed of less than 3 points only. After we finish this, we have draw text. Here, literally, we are drawing text in the render target, where it appears as if it is really a written part of the image. In font, here, we can use one from Engine Content, and we place the name here, as usual. I will place it in the middle and change its color as well. I will leave the rest as it is. Let us see. We now indeed have written text here. If we want to add effects after the change and enable the options here, we will notice this. Okay, as for the thing before, last it is draw texture. Honestly, nothing complicated. We just place a texture that we want to appear in the render target. Let us see. It looks a little small. We can enlarge it more. Okay, if you notice now, it looks as if it is a bit lower from the right side. Okay, this is because, as we said and repeated many times, the engine draws from the top left. We need to do what we did previously to solve the problem. We subtract the screen position from half the screen size to solve the problem. Now the problem has been solved and the texture appears in the middle correctly. And finally, we have draw triangles, which draws several triangles together in a connected form. Of course, you must have a variable with several points and connect it to it. I will leave this for you to try this part. Before I finish, let me show you something useful if we want, for example, to execute Drawbox and change some of its settings as we used to do, and then use end draw. And here we use render target 2D, create static texture 2D. Try not to make a mistake here, because honestly, all of these here have the same effect, and only the render target type differs. So what is the benefit of this node? Well, simply, it creates a copy of the render target. For example, if you want to keep a certain change in the render target, you create a copy of it for later use and continue modifying the original render target. If we now apply the change, we will have a black pixel in the middle. As you will notice, 2 new textures have been created containing the same changes of the render target. And you can also modify the name of the copies as well as their settings. These were all the basic ways to use this method. There are still many blueprint nodes that I did not talk about, but they remain just helper nodes and nothing more. And what I showed you is considered the most important. The 5th and last method, it may not be called a method, but rather tips and an explanation of some points that I did not talk about. Among them is virtual texture, where it can be used in the same way as draw material to render target. The difference here is that you use an actor to draw on another actor, and it is useful in several things that you may find on YouTube, such as drawing realistic footprints on snow or in the desert. The other method has nothing to do with render target, but performs the same role, and that is by using a widget. Yes, that is correct. Where here, you draw directly on the widget instead of drawing in the render target. Using this method depends on using a specific function in the widget, which is on Paint from here. After that, in this place, you can use the same previous methods like drawLine and drawBox and others. The difference here is that you will find some nodes not present in the widget, and instead you will find other nodes. For example, here there is drawSpline and drawPoints, where the latter draws several points together in a connected and smooth way. As a final tip in the video, I advise you to be careful when using render target because some ways of using it, especially the first and second methods, will cause device resource consumption, and using it without consideration will cause a big frame drop for you and performance issues, so it must be used with caution. This was everything. I would like to thank you for watching, and do not forget to subscribe to the channel, and thank you. See you in another video.